looking at activities in the organisation that are non-transactional and both routine and non-routine. These kinds of activities, if you're talking about the functions, usually make up the bulk of business partnering and centres of excellence activities, because anything transactional or routine properly belongs in a shared service setup, whether that's offshored or outsourced. And so in these kind of business partnering space, the process design is often far, far less detailed. And as a result, people often steer away from even fully including it in the scope. And although I understand why that happens, it's something that I really caution strongly against, because the result is an organisation where the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And in practical terms, that means messy handoffs, potential for duplication and error, poor grip on controls, and not to mention team behaviours that don't really support the organisation's sustainability. It definitely doesn't take you to top quartile performance, and certainly not world-class performance levels. So that's all very well, but it is indeed often left out of scope because it's difficult. And maybe it is difficult, but I would argue that it's actually just different and it requires an alternative approach. So you need to capture what, for example, the business partner is doing. And I mean more than saying, just be like a mini CFO. If you can't articulate more precisely what that means, it's doubtful that anyone in the organisation could actually execute it. So start with walking through the annual, the quarterly, and the monthly cycles where value and risk are managed in your organisation. And if those cycles aren't taking place or they're not having the needed impact, then you'll need to roll back your thinking to first principles of where a finance professional should be active in or leading the organisation's strategy and planning and appraisal activities. And then next do the same for governance and risk management activities. Then have a look at the activities which are triggered by events like investments or commercial deals, acquisitions, divestments. Or if I'm thinking of some current examples, things like supply chain pressures in energy, raw materials, or whatever. Finally, then think about how the balance sheet and cash are managed. Consider how cost leadership and contract management are handled, just to name a couple of examples. So I found that the articulating of all of this, it didn't only support better assessment and recruitment of the eventual jobs, but suddenly there was more transparency, much more transparency of the handoffs and who really needed, if anybody, system access. We had a much more honest discussion about the control, execution and ownership, especially those that were spanning business proximate and shared service locations. The amount of stuff that was just no longer in a grey area, it allowed us to gain a lot in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, and it error-proofed a lot of the design, and we avoided, therefore, some of the classic pitfalls.